All right, so we're gonna watch. This is our first like kind of longer form video we're gonna watch.
How is it?
So if you guys remember what's her name, Sydney Watson, the Australian libertarian chick that now presides in the United States. You know, a month or so ago, big scandal. She got sat in between two fat people on a plane, and what she was doing while she was on a plane was to go to New York to film a video for Vice. Well, that video came out. This anti and pro feminist debate abortion, trans rights, and hashtag Me Too. So we're gonna see what she got up to, what this panel's like. I'm sure it's not gonna make me want to kill myself. So let's get into it. Let's do it.
How is it sexism when we have no barriers today? So we can
Who
pick
has
what
no
we want to
barriers?
pick.
Who doesn't have barriers?
Women don't have barriers?
Women, yeah. What's
We have
stopping
no
you? You can do
barriers.
whatever you want.
I
stopping
can
you?
or you can.
What's stopping you?
well, here we go. Now we're gonna get some based mamas. Prophet says what's depressing is getting up at 5 to work and seeing Zay smoking his goodnight blunt on live. Yeah, no, that is depressing. It is depressing. It's an injustice. If he went to jail for fucking murder, it's a fucking injustice. Hagler says, oh, the legless lady. Is that who she is? She got no legs? Trelnick says, oh, Vice, so you know it'll be good. Yeah, I'm curious of the angle, because obviously they invited like Sydney Watson and this other base redhead chick to kind of stir the pot a little bit, right? They're trying to get into the grift of those what is it? What is that YouTube channel? The one we've watched it a bunch of times, where they have like two groups of people with opposing viewpoints come together and have a conversation. I can't remember the name of the channel, but you know what I'm talking about.
Should we mark this bad boy at all? Oh my goodness.
Oh, here we go. Hi, welcome everybody. I'm Liz Landers. I'm Vice News' chief political correspondent, and we are here today to talk about some of the biggest issues dividing women across the country. In other words, we're here to talk about feminism. First, I just want to say,
I wonder how many people here are pro-feminism and how many are anti. I mean, I know Sydney would technically probably be in the anti-camp. Seems like this chick here would be in the anti-camp. I wonder if they're the only two. Are they really going to stack? How much are they going to stack against them in this conversation? Because, if it's just a numbers game, the pro people could just control the conversation and not let these people talk very much. But I guess we'll see.
we know we can't represent everybody's views, but we did try our best to bring together a diverse group of women today. In today's polarized world, is feminism dead? I saw your hand.
I think that depends on the definition of feminism. I strongly think that feminism is more of an action than an identity. I would say it's uplifting all women, in which case it's very alive. At the same time, if we do follow that definition, feminism has splintered off into so many different areas that you can look at people like Sheryl Sandberg who say you should just get another nanny if you feel oppressed. And if we're talking about that kind of feminism, yeah, it's pretty dead.
Yeah, I mean, as long as the human race exists, feminism will never be dead. There's something that we're always going to have to strive and work towards to make.
Work towards what? You won. If you have to have constantly different waves of it to kind of construct new problems for feminism to face, then maybe you won. Maybe it's over. Maybe you should hang up your bras. Be done. Prof says the base redhead is just pearly things. I have a major boner for her, but I'm pretty sure she's like 6'3" and only fucks Tyrones. The yo. You don't want to get sent to the yos if you're a crackhead. They'll take advantage of you.
Make sure that there's equality. So feminism is not dead.
I don't know that it can die. As long as there's power and oppression, there will be people fighting for equity. And until that somehow goes away, feminism is alive and well.
I think feminism isn't actually about equality. It's about equality when it benefits us. I think feminism is really about women wanting special privileges and treatment at the expense of men often. And I think it's alive and well, sadly.
I think feminism is also alive and well. There are different kinds of feminism, right? Like that is obvious.
Which is good because you can't be expected just to adhere to one ideological position. No, there's all different flavors for whatever you feel like it is. So there's no actual standard. It just gets to be whatever the fuck you think it is, however you feel today. Trembling Color says Doc Hammer from Venture Brothers there. Oh, the little short lady. Prof says, you know what else comes in waves? Zerg rushes. Ooh, StarCraft for life. Trembling says the short-haired dink, I mean. Oh, I saw her. I know who you were talking about.
And for me, as a womanist, as a Black feminist, right, as someone who's really thinking about human rights, dignity, right, equity,
Oh, yeah.
right, as long as that need isn't met, we're still gonna keep fighting.
I'd say it's alive and well. I'd say that it's also very nuanced. And I think what it looks like is going to differ depending on where you are in the world. For me, I just see it as a lens, which.
Why'd they send this chick from New Hampshire? She's not representing New Hampshire very well. Okay, I grew up in New Hampshire. For shame.
Isn't necessarily antagonistic or protagonistic. It's just a useful tool.
Similar to what Pearl just said, I find that a lot of feminist ideology and thought today feels more of like a supremacist movement rather than something that is supposed to be advancing the goals of equality. I don't think that we can really term what's going on as feminism because it looks so different to, I think, the earlier feminist movements. So in that way, I would say it's taken its last breaths of life. It's dying.
Yeah, I definitely think it's getting more and more radicalized, for sure. So it's definitely still alive.
I think I'll preface and say that I don't know so much about modern.
What is this shirt she's wearing here? Is this our Native American sister wearing her family rags? Hopefully they don't have a syphilis or anything like that on them. Hopefully they're not poisoned. They don't have any types of pox. Maybe that's what these these coins are for, to ward off the sickness.
Western feminism, and there might be a lot of terms that I don't know, like political jargon and stuff. But I believe in the advancement of women, whoever considers themselves a woman. I think there's
whoever considers themselves a woman. Well, there it is. There it is, everybody. One of these pro-women, but they're actually anti-women. You got to make spaces for the phonies, for the dudes.
Deficiency in society. So it's deeply rooted that feminism has always existed. I think America's a little obsessed with themselves, and it's like always feminism is rooted in America. And like, oh, white women started it. And it's kind of offensive because for thousands of years, women have been dying for their rights.
I think as a Black woman specifically.
As opposed to who else? Who else has been dying for rights? Who else has been out there, I don't know, fighting on the battlefields, etc.? Who's been doing that? Who's been shoring up people's rights for thousands of years? I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Trembling says Layla Gray can get it. Big Tom says the ultimate act of feminism, getting a penis. No lies detected. Wasn't Bruce Jenner the woman of the year that year? He came out as Caitlyn Jenner.
When you talk about feminism, the mainstream first thing you think about is a certain type of feminism that tends to exclude still, even today, even with intersectional feminism, exclude African-American women. And it's always kind of done that. And also like upper middle class white women has predominantly been the face of what we quote unquote consider feminism.
I think feminism is attempting to say, okay, the first thing we agree on is that there are barriers.
See, she got offended immediately because she's like, well, she's talking about me. Trembling says trannies were set adrift on ice floes in her tribe.
And friction to what I need and what I want based on the fact that I'm a woman. What it ignores is that, and what privilege is that you may not have to think that being a woman and being a Black woman and being a Black woman who has a disability, for example, impacts you further. You have more barriers, you have more friction, you are less able to get what you want. You're undervalued in a way that's like, okay, well, that's life. That's what I mean by equity, and that we're able to, without friction, all get the same needs met.
Like, it's just like anybody that has a disability or comes from a class of person. It's not like, it's really not a gendered thing, especially not in 2022. It stopped being a gendered thing. These barriers they speak of, they could apply to anybody, regardless. it's just like it's, and then they'll say like, well, feminism is for everybody. It's not just for women. At least these people are kind of acknowledging that it's specifically for women, but I'm sure you guys have all heard that over the past 10 years. Well, feminism is for everybody. It's also to help men to fight against the patriarchy and what they have to suffer under the patriarchy. Trembling says this brown sweater bitch is the worst one. Oh yeah, she's going to be the most intense one. She's going to probably talk a lot.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. See, I disagree with that. I think life is easier if you're a girl. Actually,
Yeah,
I think
use it as
there's a
an
lot
advantage.
of benefits that men don't have. I'm not going to speak anything to race. I'm just talking about gender specifically. It's usually like an excuse. Like, honestly, I think as a girl, you have equal opportunity in the world. I think there's benefits. Like, for example, we have quotas for women in specific jobs that are given to us that aren't given to men. So yeah, I would say it's easier being a girl.
Just from a viewpoint over here, though, it seems there's a lot of pretty privilege in what you're saying, and that you're white and you present.
Do you think I'm pretty? Thank you.
I think that you present in a way that beauty standards have accepted. And so
they call me ugly on the internet all the time.
I don't know. She's pretty dressed down. Like she's not out here to the tens wearing her Sunday best, all dolled up with makeup like these people. Like the more intense feminist ones, like really went out of their way to try to look their best today. And she kind of looks like what she would probably look like on an average Thursday night. Pretty privilege. White. You're talking about pretty privilege. So she identifies her as pretty and herself probably as ugly because that's one of the barriers. It's one of the barriers in her life is being ugly. It's not her personality. It's not that she's a shrewish bitch. No. It's that she's ugly.
They be roasting me daily. I swear to God.
I don't mean to say I think you're gorge. I just mean that there are a certain value.
I don't think you're gorge. I don't think you're gorge. What a hip older lady. Trembling says this sweater bitch has a chip on her shoulder about everything and wears her insecurities openly. I think that's a great observation. That's probably the best way to put it.
Value that we give to certain bodies.
I mean, let's also dig into why these quotas exist and why these, what you're calling
because we want
exist.
special treatment.
No, it's because there have historically and presently in most jobs been fewer women and because of sexism.
How is it sexism when we have no barriers today? So we can pick what we want to pick.
It doesn't have barriers.
Women don't have barriers?
Women, yeah. What's
We have
stopping
no
you? You can do
barriers.
whatever you want.
I can or you can?
What's stopping you? As a woman.
That ignores a lot that I'm a woman with a disability. So there's a lot stopping me that you don't have to think about.
Well, as I said before, I'm speaking about women. I'm not.
You're speaking
Do you think like anybody with this disability, she got no legs? Anybody with this disability doesn't have barriers put in front of them means they can't do anything? Yeah, you have a physical impediment. It's going to stop you from being eligible for a lot of things in life. Being a woman has nothing to fucking do with that. Trembling says, no, the only gorge is your rancid cunt sweater shrew. Prophet says, actually, now that I think about it, I'm pretty sure it was just Pearly Things that was tonguing out Kevin Samuel's asshole when he launched into cardiac arrest. What a king. What a king.
Yeah, so you're speaking for yourself.
You're speaking as an able-bodied
woman.
I understand. Of course, there's.
They always have to do all these qualifiers. They have to like carve you up into elements of your being. Because now it's not enough for her to be a woman and have an opinion, but because it's a counter opinion, well, now we got to cut you up. Well, you're too pretty, you're too tall, you don't have any of these physical impediments, so you don't really understand, you don't get it. You're not even really allowed to be part of this conversation. Why are you even here? Hagrid says, I have no legs and I am successful and I am a successful shoe model. Yeah, you do get the phantom legs, those phantom legs. Trauma says, oh boy, this is going to be rough. You said it, buddy. Big Tom says, I thought this had to do with women and feminism, not able-bodied disability stuff. Well, it's called intersectionality, Tom. You got to get hip. You got to get hip to the lingo.
The other barriers if you're disabled, I'm sure. Like I'm talking about as a woman.
So you're just going to ignore
white
the
women
pay
have it
gap.
easier. Yes, I would agree.
What?
You're just going to ignore the pay gap, regulation over bodies.
The pay gap has been
The pay gap doesn't exist,
my friend.
It doesn't. It's the industries that women pick.
Let's talk about
There's
it.
a pay gap, but it's because women don't want to do the hardest industries.
I don't think it's that simple. I think that's an oversimplification. I think the fact of the matter is that women structure their lives differently to men. Men don't give birth. men don't have to carry pregnancies. Men don't have to be the primary caregiver most of the time. Women also don't hold jobs for as long as men do. They often will stop and start. They'll go back into work. They'll take time off. They'll take part-time jobs. The way that men work and women work are astronomically different. And to try to say that they're comparable is where this issue comes from. They're not comparable.
Two things. First of all, let's dig into why they think that they should take these jobs, which is societal sexism. And then also,
You see, women are just dumb rubes. They're just dumb rubes, and they have no agency, and they have no ability to choose the things that they would like more than men can. Okay, that's really, at the end of the day, they're just dumb. They're just fucking stupid. Okay, if they weren't so stupid, if they didn't fall prey to societal standards so much, ones that are not pushed on them by anybody, well, things would be different. Okay.
Department of Labor, all statistics, at least speaking in the US, have found that when compared to the same jobs, there still is a pay gap, particularly when it pertains to race.
Because 60% of women have never asked for a raise. So how can you complain about your pay if
Why
you don't
are
ask?
they not asking?
Wait, what happens when women ask for a raise? Sorry, I've been wanting to say something, but I want to be respectful. I don't want to interrupt people, and I want to let them finish their thoughts.
Jump in, just
But
go through the wall.
it is a very privileged label, right, to be able to say that you're feminist, right? And I say that because I come from a working class background of Dominican immigrant parents. My mother would not necessarily identify as a feminist. I look to my mother, and I do think of her as a feminist. A lot of my ideas and my empowerment comes from seeing her like survive and
Or just like a strong, independent human being. She didn't have to feel like she was part of a club to do what she wanted to do or to be the woman that she wanted to be. Trembling says these creatures and their identity merit badges. Hagbard says Doc Hammer looking broad is a guy, right? It's definitely possible. I don't know. I know they're going to bring up trans at some point. So it would be weird, especially considering this is Vice, if they didn't have a trans person. So it's a 50-50 shot there. Trembling says this dink is barely a woman. Get out of here, Myro.
food on the table. When I'm thinking about feminism, I'm always thinking about who's not part of the conversation. What are the barriers? How do we think about equity? How do we think about self-empowerment and agency and having a voice, right? And having choice and thinking about our basic human rights, education, access to health, home, like having bread, having food, and those things are very important, right? And they're at the crux, right, of what a lot of us here know that we need.
I'm so sorry that you live in some sort of third world country. You should move to America.
It's like there are the barriers, right, that we constantly ignore that are very much systemic and microaggressive, right? We see them and experience them every day.
Like what in the U.S.?
So,
like what?
What would you like to know an example of?
I know you said that there's like barriers. I want to know what barriers in the U.S. today as a woman.
Well, as a woman or as a woman of color? Let's be specific.
As a woman. I said
and we
as a
don't.
woman.
Well, no, I can't answer as a woman.
I
I'm
just feel
not
like your
a woman,
question
right?
is kind of hostile when you're like,
This poor bitch. This question is kind of hostile. So she just asked her a question. They're here to talk about feminism, which includes all of them, regardless of their race. Should just be about women and about women's place in society. So you can't answer a question as a woman. What are the barriers? She should have just said, yeah, also as a woman of color, what are your barriers? What are the barriers that you face? Trauma says, nod more. We don't get it. Trembling says, nothing is lost if this building collapses on them.
there are no barriers to what I want. Congratulations. That means you have the privilege where you're not facing any friction, and that's showing. And I feel like
I think as an American, you're very privileged. Like,
I'm not ignoring that.
Or like a basic level of what, the feminist movement is when it comes to just being born a woman, right? Physically, pound for pound, we are born as women and we have less lean muscle mass than men. So there are issues of violence and assault and stuff like that. And so therefore, there are policies, there are things to help women physically, like, for example, I believe being able to carry a firearm and being able to use that safely to defend yourself against men who are born naturally with more muscle mass than a woman.
I keep hearing the term equity. What would a world that has equity look like? Like, would it be 50% of everyone in the same jobs? Would it be like prison, 50%?
That's equality.
50%. So,
Yeah,
so what does equity look like?
So equity is generally described as a state of fairness because historically a lot of people have been arguing for equality. But what does that?
So they use these nebulous terms. She asked for concrete examples, and then they just go to these abstract concepts. Well, it means fairness. It means a culture of fairness. Don't you understand? Trembling says it's ultimately a good thing that these types eat each other immediately when put in a room together. That's very true. Trembling says such a Weasley horseshit discussion. Quote unquote, well, I don't know because I'm not just a woman. Yeah, I agree. Trembling says there wouldn't be so much assault if you weren't awful twats. Ooh, hot take. Bursinger says, we're here.
Give us like 0.5 of the 1% being women. This doesn't really do anything for us. And so people have talked about equity instead, which is instead of sameness, it's fairness. And this would mean that we remove systemic barriers to
For example, she's asking you for fucking examples, not your jerk off like reading from a Wikipedia article definition. An example. Come on now.
engage in society, not just for women, but also for everyone.
So, which barriers?
Those barriers that you don't believe in.
Dude, they won't answer the question. Just won't answer the fucking question. What barriers? Ones that you don't think exist. Like what? Troubling says equity is just a new word for affirmative action. Yeah, in a certain respect it is. Well, because equity is about controlling for outcomes. It's actually not about creating fairness. It's about controlling for outcomes, which is not merit-based. It's just like, well, we're going to let these people win because. Just because. Brissinger says these people are Nazis. End of story.
I do. For you to have a bunch of ramps in your life, it doesn't do shit. I need those ramps, right?
Can we stick to male versus female? That's my question. So I'm thinking male versus female.
But my feminism includes ability. It includes
race. My question is,
you guys can talk.
Women versus men. Like what barriers do we need to remove? That's my statement. I'm not stating anything else. I'm stating women versus men.
It's very silly.
So what barrier? I just want to.
The question is silly.
So, yeah, but
it's not a fair.
You have to fractionalize it into your own bugaboo, just your personal dilemma. Then it's not something that's a broad thing that everybody gets to like engage with. And what you're seeing here is that they can't even answer basic questions because they're going to fractionalize everything into their most personal persuasion. The most personal thing that they face themselves as a person, anecdotally. And that is their identity. That's also part of the equation for them. It's just like fucking, it's a nonsense conversation. You can't go anywhere with conversations like this. Hagrid says, yep, a dude, Eli Elric. Not surprising. Brissinger says, no woman cares about the WNBA, not a thing, but do care about the Kardashians. Trembling says, quote unquote, I'm thinking male versus female, and I'm sensing that this zipper head next to me has a dick. Spooky stuff.
Question is,
how is it not a fair question?
Kind of proving the point of why what people, especially Black women, other people who are anybody who's not white, why we hear feminism and we don't want that label because it means, I'm just going to say, it means that. Like, it means that you've already gotten to a pinnacle of whatever you think your happiness needs or whatever your survivalist needs are, when there are people on lower end who are trying to survive, who are trying to get to a point of what should be normal. Based on what other people have.
It sort of sounds like you're saying feminism is not always inclusive then.
Right. It's most of the time it's not inclusive. It's more times than not, it's not. So, and
it seems like it's a problem. You should just abolish the term, just whole cloth. Just get rid of it then. If it's not going to actually apply to anything, it's not ever actually going to, you can't apply it to anything because it doesn't encompass everything that you want it to encompass. Then get rid of it.
Within the just feminism space, again, there obviously the very basic is male versus female versus,
because there has to be a hierarchy of oppression and victimization, and they have to go down as far as they can into their own personal life, into the way they feel, their experiences, to find that victimization, and they'll go all the way to the bottom. Trami says the legless one is like, yep, and I don't think he dreads he hears what is saying. Don't think he reads what she actually thinks. Brissinger says, damn, that's base. She's killing it. Happy for a black woman right now. Good for her. The dreads. Thank you. Brissinger says, the one with 10 chins, not a Bruce Lee joke. Ooh.
But unfortunately, we've only had one subset of women be the face and voice and the academics and research and everything to be able to say, well, that's the standard we need to be in, when there are other people who are still trying to get to some type of normalcy and just living.
What is the biggest issue then that feminism faces?
Well, then what is that? Get to some type of normalcy and living. Like, what does that even fucking mean? That means nothing. Like, you guys gotta present like one concrete example of something that they're talking about. And yet we're 12 minutes into the video and they have failed to address anything. They haven't said anything of substance. The only people who have said anything of substance using like real concrete examples are Sydney Watson and Just Pearly Things. They're the only ones that have actually said anything.
I think it's the mindset. Women taking like the agency, women taking initiative. I think it's mindset holding them back a lot, because if you want to be in a competitive world and compete, you have to have the right mindset. And I think a lot of people blame their lack of confidence or what society tells them for the reason that they're not achieving what they need to achieve, when that's not the case. You have to have the mindset.
Sydney Watson has like psycho eyes, like darting around. Yeah, she's making a very valid point. Just go out and do it. You have to go out and do it. You have to be willing to do the work. You cannot sit here and hope somebody's going to hand it to you. They just want to be given things rather than having to work for things. So if we have created we flattened it out. Everybody has the same opportunities. You know, everybody, the equality of opportunity. Everybody has the same opportunities. If you're constantly kind of lean on this notion that, well, it's just not fair to me. It's not fair. So why would I even try? These people don't even know. They have no idea. Brissinger says, just Pearly. She's definitely trying to be a repto. I don't know, man. Trembling says, they call me Mr. No Legs there. Looks like a comedian, H. Foley from Are You Garbage podcast.
Of achieving, because the men who built the world had the mindset of building it. So the women who want to engage and build that further, they need to have that same mindset.
I don't think we do. I think it's like assuming that we all want to be capitalist babies.
Right.
I think that men are not well adjusted in the society and women are not trying to re-embody what they have built for us.
Oh, dude, that's the thing. They don't actually want to compete in the world that exists. They want to tear it down and deconstruct it and build it anew in their kind of feminist hierarchy system.
I think that like what we're forgetting is a very important detail, which is just like human respect and dignity.
Yeah.
And not asking people to prove what their experience is and to prove to you, like it is like such conservative thinking to say like, I don't understand, explain it to me, versus just saying, I don't understand and let me respect what you are saying.
I'm respecting
right?
If you're having a conversation and you're trying to find common ground, if you say, I don't understand, could you explain it to me? Seeing that as some sort of obfuscation or some sort of form of violence or whatever is why the shit never goes anywhere for any of these people. That's why it's like the pseudo intellectual circle jerk that'll never achieve anything. So I guess we're safe. Well, not really, I suppose. These people do find themselves in positions of power and authority, especially when you think about the education system and who makes up the most teachers, who makes up the most people that graduate college. Sure isn't dudes.
Wherever your starting point, I'm respecting that. I'm really respecting that. I'm saying that if you don't have the mindset you can even achieve it, you're never going to even try. So it's
But
never
achieve what? Like, what are we talking about? Because I feel like you projected this like capitalist ideology on every woman.
Achieve whatever it is you're looking for, equality, equity. But what I'm saying is women in the feminist space and a lot of these other spaces, we don't acknowledge that we have to take the initiative. We have to take the action. We have to have the mindset.
Because you start from a place of calling yourself weak. You're saying you are disadvantaged and you can't achieve the things you want to because of society. Brissinger says, absolutely no competition. Like an anthill, just feed me and fuck me. Time to do a hell spiral. Prophet says, these people are children and it's time to stop bargaining with them. Eat your fucking dinner or go to bed hungry. I think we really should stop bargaining with them. It shouldn't be a bargain. They should just be ignored, honestly, because they don't do anything. They don't do anything of value. They're not producing shit. So it's pretty easy to ignore them and just kind of keep building the world in the way that you want to, because you're going to go out there and do it. You're actually going to do it. Just like most regular women do, by the way. It's only these people. These people are not acknowledging their fucking privilege, their middle upper class privilege of being able to come to Vice and have this fucking conversation. Trembling says, I'm beginning to think these women just need a nice man and a cute house to keep. Bersinger says, time to start putting straitjackets on them, bro. Just strap them down, put them in a pillow room, and force feed them 3 times a day.
You have to demand those things.
I don't understand how we're getting so off topic. This is about feminism today, whereas everybody wants to make this about their individual, here are all the multitude of other things that factor into my person. Great. This is about feminism. It's about womanhood. I understand that all of you have your own individual experiences and the other things that feed into you as a person. That's perfectly fine. But this is where intersectionality falls off the planet and loses, I would argue, probably the vast majority of people, including me. I'm not even a feminist. I don't give a crap about feminists arguing amongst themselves about who's the most victimized. But this is annoying to listen to. I honestly I don't understand anything anybody's even trying to get at.
Oh boy. Trami says, nailed it, Watson. Brissinger says, absolutely. Prof says, ignore them. What? Are you telling me that as an almost 40-year-old man, I shouldn't be intentionally getting banned from subreddits for fun? Oh no, you should definitely be doing that. What else is there to do at 2 o'clock in the morning? Brissinger says, they cannot hold water. They cannot argue. They have no defense. Exactly right. I'm glad that Sydney Watson said exactly what I said 2 minutes ago. Just saying.
Look, I just want to say that I don't think equity and this concept of competition can't coexist with each other. Equity is building more facilities for people who need them. It is recognizing that there are holes in the market and there's opportunities for women and feminine, expansive people and meeting those opportunities. I think equity can buoy the pre-existing system that we live in a good way.
And this is where we're going to get to what I think the real feminist arguments are based off of policy. And abortion is the biggest one.
How many of you would identify as pro-choice? Let's do a show of hands for pro-choice.
I feel like pro-choice is pro-life, though.
Yeah.
Okay, and folks who identify as pro.
So she wants to have the semantic debate about this obvious fucking just basic question. Well, I feel like pro-choice is actually pro-life. It's like, that's not the question. And you know that. And this is just to get everybody at some sort of base level of understanding where the other person is coming from. Trembling says, man, the one with the horn-rimmed glasses is starting to see. No wonder the cameraman keeps her out of focus. Brissinger says, what's a zoo box? I'm not familiar with that.
Pro-life? Why do you identify as each?
You've gone from legal, safe, rare to, yeah, I'm so proud. Let me beatbox in front of the Planned Parenthood. Yeah, I got murder on my mind. The fact that it's celebrated that murdering children, especially in late-term pregnancies, is celebrated, that people are so proud of themselves for mutilating a fetus is just, it blows my mind. And I don't think that you need to be pro-life to even take that stand.
See, now she's going to be very disturbed. Be like, well, that's a caricature. That's not what's going on out there. I don't know. Spend 10 minutes. Go look up abortion on Twitter. Go look up abortion on TikTok. See what comes up. See what comes up. Trami says, the funny thing is that you can take pro-choice as pro-life as her saying she's against abortion. Well, I don't think she is. Brissinger says, when they're wrong, they start digging for a distraction. Those are the only 2 kinds of women arguments. Trembling says, none of these baby-killing whores can get a man to nut in them. Oh, hot take.
A late-term pregnancy.
Yes.
A lot of
Well, they may be able to get Eli to do it. Eli may be up for the occasion. Brissinger says, when they're right, they hold on to the topic they're right about. When they're wrong, they start scrounging for distractions. Trami says, sadly, her parents weren't pro-choice. Hot take.
abortions do not happen.
I made
in
the
late-term
distinction.
pregnancy.
I made the distinction
Right.
specifically because lots of people still celebrate. There are people who, when the laws were passed, actually here in New York, they said, "Yes, great, yes, I love the fact
but
that."
you need to ask about what are people celebrating, right? They're celebrating access.
Well,
We're not
well, that's
celebrating
okay.
killing kids. Like that's
But
not what
then
it
why-
is.
Well, so this is what I'm
Right? So,
saying.
like,
When-
here's the thing: when we're talking about access to reproductive health and to abortion rights, right, and to being pro-choice. Listen, that's your body. You do you.
The child
If
is
you
not your
decide-
body.
A zygote.
a baby.
It's so scary for me to hear people calling like guns the biggest equalizer for women, but taking their choices away from them at a policy level.
Nobody's taking your choices away. You can just like not get pregnant. Most abortions have nothing to do with rape. You know, we live in 2022, for Christ's sakes. I think you could figure it out. Prophet says Pearl can get my nut, but unfortunately, bucket required for that filly. Brissinger says she wouldn't give it up, dude. Trembling says that Layla girl can have my baby. Trami says to Brissinger, understandable. I somewhat encroached on Prophet's jokes there. No, we're all about cheap jokes here, especially when it comes to these kinds of conversations. Brissinger says she's looking for Captain Gorn. Trembling says she tries to kill it and the shackles come out.
Why is that? Having a gun is an equalizer.
It is.
Having rights is an equalizer.
Hagbard says Eli Elric there likes to send hormones to children. This person does seem familiar, so I've probably come across them before. But yeah, that would not surprise me. Wouldn't be a shocker, you know, because they're trying to protect women's choice. The choice of your child to turn themselves into a sexless, neutered woman.
Yeah, having choice is an equalizer.
Just like a gun right.
And in this country,
41 forms of
the
birth
policies
control.
that are pushed to continue perpetuating patriarchy and anti-women, like taking the autonomy away from women, it is heartbreaking to see women pushing that propaganda. It's all brainwashed.
Well, wasn't Eli Elric part of that? We watched a video by that Jesse Gender, that trans like activist person that was like going after the Matt Walsh documentary. I think Eli Elric was a big part of the drama surrounding that whole thing, like sending hormones to kids. That's right.
Gosh, like you.
Oh, it's brainwashed because you don't agree with me.
No,
so
because I've been brainwashed.
brainwashed.
I have lived deeply institutionalized.
Man,
I have lived under Islam. I'm not interested in any of that. Like, there's no like
You're not
jokes
interested
for
in
me.
human
No, I'm not interested in like
living.
thinking that like women are doing this really bad thing. Like in my religion, abortion is actually allowed. If the woman needs it, she's allowed, because, you know, it's very interesting how like fundamental America is. Like fundamentalist.
This is nothing to do with
like
even religion. This is very
conservative
basic
thinking.
Scientific human rights.
We're also talking about people not having access to abortion clinics where they're doing the things themselves and they die. Right? We're also talking about women in the hospital who are pregnant, who have chosen.
Seems like they made a choice. Just saying. Trembling says, who's the redhead? The redhead is, I believe her name is Just Pearly Things. Trembling says, I'm going to be happy if when trans shit comes up, they're all turfs and stomp out the ladyboy. That's a big doubt. Big doubt there. Brissinger says, that Elric thing is a street criminal. Somebody pull out the cocaine already. Trembling says, even No Legs gets a kick in.
To stay with their pregnancy and have issues at hospitals, and hospitals that are like, oh, no, we don't do that. Listen, for whatever reason, you don't need to explain it to anybody.
I love all these stories that crop up. All of these stories that happen every single day, that hospitals are letting women die on the operating table.
But a lot of times when we're talking about access to reproductive health, for me, I'm thinking about Black, Indigenous, people of color, particularly women and girls who are working class, who do not have even access to like proper sexual education. It's the
I love this. They always appeal to this. Well, women are idiots. They're dumb. They don't have access to the proper education. Yeah, nothing else going on in these neighborhoods. Nothing else going on. They're just fucking stupid.
Aggressive state of saying, I will force you to have a child even against your own will, right? Especially when you're thinking about women and girls who would be forced to have these children, who are already living in very traumatized and scared situations. You want to ask about barriers? That's a barrier right there.
Women.
A prophet says, if Padme had access to abortion, she would still be alive. It's true. That's true. That's true. R.I.P. Padme. Brissinger says, Tromby says, I keep saying it, just don't have sex for fuck's sake. Don't have sex, or use all of the precautions that we have. We have as a society in the modern era. If you get pregnant today, it's because you let it happen. You got to take some personal fucking responsibility. It's like, the conversation has gotten so ridiculous to hang on to something that is like, in some ways ends up being a little barbaric. The longer it goes on, the more information we have about it. I mean, when this stuff first came along, they didn't even have fucking ultrasounds. They didn't even have ultrasounds. It wasn't until like the late 80s that they acknowledged that babies feel pain. And like for the first 18 months, they thought their pain threshold was different. That's why it was okay to do like certain things to babies. It's just like, it's like we never progressed. We never knew anything different. We don't know anything more than we did before. So let's just continue on with it. Then you got places like Colorado and New York will let you do it up until 9 months. Like, how is that? Like, what is that? I would like somebody to ask, like, at what point do you have rights as a human being? At what point? Well, they're going to take until you're out of the womb. Until you're out of the womb. While you're inside, you're a fucking parasite, and I get to do with you whatever I want. I don't know. It's a little barbaric, in my opinion.
And in poverty aren't able to access the way that rich women are. And no matter what happens, rich women are going to keep getting abortions, and people are.
You know who has the most abortions in this country? Poor black women. Poor black women. It's not that expensive to have an abortion. Trembling Color says these people think sex and junk food are human rights and can't even imagine going without them. Brissinger says, like I said, anthill.
Poverty are going to not. And the choice, opening it up, the overruling is marginally affecting people of color, people in poverty, way more than people who are going to get access to those abortions.
Actually,
anyway.
incorrect. You're there's actually more abortions for people in poverty. It's just at a lower rate.
Why do you think that abortion has been so...
No comeback. No comeback at all. Just a face. Just like, I don't know. That's not what I read in this pamphlet that I got from Planned Parenthood.
tied up in this feminism conversation?
It's all just social structures set up around bodies. So if not all women are able to have babies, but it's about the barriers and value that we give to these specific bodies, right? And so if abortion happens in a woman's body, that's why this conversation is coming up.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
You said that not all women are able to have babies or pregnancies. Are you saying, meaning like an infertility issue?
A number of reasons. There's all kinds of reasons that not all women are having babies.
Pearl, I saw your hand up. Yeah.
I think women want to sleep around and not have any consequence for it.
Hell yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Instead of, taking.
Yeah, of course, this legless woman, she's pulling down dick all the time on the reg. She's pulling that D, 8 inches, baby.
Personal accountability and being on birth control. They just want to do whatever they want.
You say this like it's a bad thing.
Yeah. It almost sounds like you said.
You say it's like it's a bad thing. It's just like, no, you can have sex without any consequences if you so choose. It requires you to do some sort of premeditation. You got to take a pill, make the dude strap on a condom, lots of things you could do. You can live that lifestyle if you so choose. Nobody's stopping you.
Can I also ask, do you have any care to empower women, or is disempowering women part of your steez?
To see this as shame, insult, guilt, need to be right. Okay. Why is it empowering to sleep around?
No,
why
what
is
I'm
that
saying
empowering?
is I feel like you do take the way you speak on women is very sort of women just don't want to do this. Women just don't have this. Women just wanted this.
Maybe I should
and I wonder why you have so much hatred towards women.
I don't hate women.
Where does that root in? It sounds
hate
like
women.
you do.
I am a woman.
That doesn't mean you don't have self-hate.
I could be black and still be internalized racism.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I'm saying specific things that you're saying, like women don't want to work, women don't want to this, women want to sleep around. Where did you learn these belief systems from?
Because, the question was, why does abortion keep getting brought up? 40% of women that have had abortions have had 2 or more. 40%.
Good for them.
So what does that say to me? That means you're using it as a form of birth control. And they don't track the 60%.
What kind of abortion?
Can you let me finish? They don't track the 60% to say who in the future has abortion. So to me, it's like, why are they dying so hard for abortion? They want to sleep around with no consequences, even though you have 41 forms of birth control.
Who does that benefit? I don't think that benefits women. I think actually that benefits men because it means
Exactly. See, here's the dirty underbelly of all this. It actually benefits dudes. That's why dudes love it. That's why dudes push for it. That's why all of the big influencers, like the dude from Barstool, Andrew Tate types. That's why they love abortion. They push for it because they don't want to have to deal with the consequences of their own actions either. They just want to blast it. They just want to come. Trembling says none of these twats should breed anyway. Well, that's true. That is true. We may be dodging some major bullets. Brissinger says, I think they just need to go to Cheese Hill and roll some cheese. Trami says, come, Watson, speak up. I believe in you. Yeah, she's got to get in there. She's got to get in there. Brissinger says, first one down the hill wins. That or mud wrestling. Absolutely.
That men can have sex with you without consequence. It means that you can sleep with whoever you feel like. Great, but there are consequences because women are the ones who get pregnant and carry babies and give birth.
It's very binary version of
yes,
sex.
because sex is binary. But please let me finish my point.
Oh God.
It's tricking women into thinking that aborting a pregnancy terminating.
So the troon, the shim, or not shim. Well, I guess this is shim. Yeah, the shim is just like, well, not all women can get pregnant, like me. So you'll never have to worry about this. Why is this person even here having this conversation? They should excuse themselves. They should recuse themselves for the rest of the conversation when it comes to women's reproductive health because they have no stake in it. They can't get pregnant.
Pregnancy is something to be celebrated when in reality, for a lot of women, especially those who are doing it under duress, say that they've been raped or that, in the small circumstances where something really traumatic has happened to them, that's a medical decision. Or say that they're miscarrying and then they have to, have an assisted termination. That's a medical procedure. It's not a celebration of, oh, look at the.
The idea, the sort of like moral setting of that it needs to be rare is, I think the delineation between that's a medical abortion and that's like a fun abortion is really interesting because they're all medical. It's all a medical procedure. And so no matter what you're doing.
No, she's talking about intentionality. Like, why are you coming to this decision? They're not all the same. Some of them are actual medical emergencies. Some of them are a choice because you didn't want to wear a fucking condom or you didn't want to take birth control. You didn't want to make them pull out. You didn't want to take it in the ass. I don't know, but they are very different. So this idea that it's an anathema to this person that you would have some sort of moral framing of abortion. It's fucking, it's crazy. Trembling says, of course, the shim doesn't believe in anything binary. Yeah, no, I picked up on that immediately. Prof says something really traumatic has happened to them, like being sandwiched between two fatties on a plane. This is true. Trami says Brissinger is losing it. He's cracking up. He's going GIF crazy. Hagbard says breast implants are a medical procedure too. Trembling says, is the horn-rimmed glasses one a dude too? No, I don't think so. That's just a New Hampshire girl.
Going in there and getting it, like it's not like, oh, you're only allowed two. It's just like you should just be able to get a medical procedure done when it's something that you need done.
We shouldn't be desensitized to taking someone's life. That should never be an empowering factor for a woman.
I definitely agree in that, like, there should be no absolute thing any woman should do. There should not be an absolute response to incest or rape or any of these things. Every woman should have the choice of if they want to or not want to carry that child, whether it is having fun, getting raped, incest, whatever it is.
It is.
I don't glorify and glamorize abortion. I think it's a very traumatic thing. I doubt that if somebody has to do, like if they have to do it, they'll do it. I don't think that people are.
She just said, this girl brought up the statistics that 41% of women that have had abortions have had multiple abortions. That's the whole thing. You don't want to destigmatize it. Even if it is a thing that exists, you don't want to destigmatize it. You don't want to make it an unserious thing. And there seems to be a sector of these people, the sector of the feminist movement, that wants to destigmatize it entirely and uncouple it from the reality of what you're actually doing. It's a disingenuous way to have the conversation. Trembling says, looks like Peter Griffin starring in Bosom Buddies. It kind of does. Brissinger says, Trami, I zoned out like 20 minutes ago. Prophet says, laugh out loud, this dumb bitch has never TikToked her abortion. What a fucking flatliner. Lighten up, lady. Lighten up.
Or like, doing like have 6, get the 7th free and having fun with it. And I think that like glamorization and glorification of any side is not okay.
Did the Dobbs decision make anybody here sort of rethink abortion access, reproductive health care?
It's anti-woman, right? It does not center people to have that voice for themselves and their own decisions, right? It is a barrier, right?
It's
If we
giving
wanna put it
more.
that
It's
way.
giving more.
Yeah, lots of things are illegal, dude. Lots of things that we thought were okay at one point in time in history. As history moved on, we're like, well, that was kind of fucked up. Maybe we shouldn't have been doing that, especially when it was completely avoidable. Trami says, I TikToked my colonoscopy, but nobody called me brave and strong. You see, Trami needs equity. He needs equity. He needs representation. Burstinger says, damn it, Tarami. Trembling says, I'm tired of this Arabian bitch and her karaoke cosplay. I got there. Prophet says, leave it up, Tarami. It will hit 1,000K or 1K eventually.
More agency to women because it's moving it back to the state level. So locally,
But why would the state have
locally,
the ability
women
to tell me what to do?
Locally,
Because it does
the
in
women
multitudes
have
of
that
different
power.
areas. If you take out the viewpoint that life begins at conception, which is a really big defining principle for both the pro-life crowd, who very, very, vehemently believe that, and then obviously a lot of the pro-choice crowd do not believe that. Taking that out of the equation, you do not have just whatever kind of autonomy you want as a person. It's regardless of male or female. You can't just have free run to do whatever the hell you want. That's not how society operates. So
At no point do I have the right to tell anyone in this room what they should or should not do with their bodies.
But it's not about your body. It's not about
me respecting.
I have a question here. It's not about your body. It's about the kid's body. I don't care what you do with your body.
It's my body, right? We're talking about my body.
You're talking about.
Jordan, I saw your hand creep up.
The Dobbs decision for me reinforced how.
Okay, maybe that is a dude. I don't know. That's a pretty low register in the voice there. The Dobbs decision for me.
How important it is that we approach these issues from a cultural perspective, because it reinforces something that I have told many of my colleagues and peers in the past, which is that so long as you lack a cultural consensus, any issue can become a political football that can be decided by another election cycle. And so long as there is no strong consensus, I would expect this to be our reality going forward, these extremely vitriolic and aggressive conversations until there's another miraculous consensus that brought about Roe v. Wade. But what it more or less reinforced for me.
Roe v. Wade was not brought about because of a national consensus. Prophet says, yeah, that one is going home to blast Goodbye Horses. Brissinger says, no, it isn't.
Is that we're going to have more of these difficult conversations.
I want to talk about transgender issues. Should trans women be?
Yeah, Eli is over there rubbing their hands together. Here we go. Here's my thing. Now I get to talk. Now I actually have something to say.
There she goes. There she goes again. Fuck that shit.
Brissinger says it's a hoe disguising the voice. Nobody effing understands what happened there.
Included in feminist conversations. How about in women's spaces?
Yes, they're women. What's the question?
Pearl,
trans women or women?
Case closed, settled, argument over. Trembling says, quote unquote, I don't have the right to tell anybody in this room what they can or can't do with their body. Should have been the invitation to punch her.
So I want to come at this from the position of an athlete.
Oh, Jesus.
So I play semi-pro basketball, semi-pro volleyball. So when it comes to like athletic spaces, I don't
Semi-pro, I believe you could go all the way. I
think that trans women should be allowed into athletic spaces because I don't think it's a fair. I think as female athletes, we work so incredibly hard for the little opportunity there is in women's sports.
Would this be a barrier for you?
There's no barrier. There's less opportunity in some industries.
That's what a barrier is.
There's less. It's not. No. It's
That's
based
what
on the
friction
market.
means.
Okay.
Hold on, guys.
Okay. So again, we work very hard for the little opportunity there is in the space. Because we're not as entertaining as the men. Sorry, we're just not. And so it's like you're going to take the little opportunity that we're given. And the problem is...
Brissinger's out ready to change teams. He says, time for an Olympics exchange. Olympic boxing, here I come as a trans woman. I will reign terror.
Like, we can't compete. We can't. Like, I'm 6 foot. If I go up against a 6 foot guy and I play basketball with him, he's going to body me.
And what happens if I go up against you?
Even if I have years more of training, And so it's like you're taking away the little opportunity that we're given and we all work so hard for, and you're just giving it back to biological guys. It's like this will be the end of women's sports.
Have you tried confidence?
So this girl tried to say, well, like, what if I played with you? You would body me. Yeah, because like in gendered sports, there are people of specific genders that are better than other people. Like I'm not going to be out playing fucking football tomorrow in the NFL. Prophet says, these broads don't know what they're talking about. Trust me, I'm eating a 6-year-old Pop-Tart that was meant for a little Ukrainian girl.
Eli, hold on, Minnie.
Sorry,
Eli.
confidence can't make me bench what a guy benches.
I don't
Confidence can't
understand
make
why
me
you guys
6'7".
are so hostile. She's sharing her
And confidence
experience
can't make
in
me
a
6'7".
specific
No, she's
field.
sharing
And
I'd have to go.
No, she's not. She's a woman who's had an
No, it's always-
experience.
it's always the other
You guys are so
Brissinger says, seriously, the weakest guy would dominate Olympic women boxing. It's not even just that. We have tons of examples of it. I mean, the women's soccer team got completely dominated by a high school boys soccer team. High school boys dominated the women's soccer team in the United States. They did like a, what is it, like a scrimmage or something like that? Some sort of informal game, and they got destroyed by the 16-year-old boys. Hagbert says, Google Karsten Brosk. Okay.
so
Pearl
obsessed with your
finish.
own experiences and your own existence. And yet when a woman is sitting here telling you, I feel as though this is unfair and this is compromising and the situation is not helping women, you guys are like, meh, meh, meh. But when you're like, I'm a Black person that did this, and this, then it's valid and fair and viable.
Eli, I want to give you the chance to respond.
So this is basically a joke of a talking point. Everyone has biological advantages in sports. How tall are you?
5'11" and a half. I'm tall.
I'm 5'8". I am a trans woman. You would crush me. You would absolutely crush
bone
me.
density, wrist strength, muscle density. You can't switch those.
Yeah, exactly. You would crush me.
But also, Eli, you would never
Yeah, Eli, you're a little femboy. You're a little femboy, dude. Come on.
play at the level that Pearl plays because you would never get there.
So let me give you a few more examples here too. So Michael Phelps produced more lactic acid in his body, which caused him to swim better than any of his competitors. This was widely celebrated. And
Yes, he's swimming against other men. Like you are going to have advantages as a man just because of your genetics, just because of the way you were born or your ability to train or whatever. It's not like this idea that if women had access to all the same things, they would be in the same place. Well, it's obviously not fucking true. Big Tom says, long day and running low on steam. Good night, all. Good night, Tom. Brissinger says, if there was a woman pistol duels, they would probably pay millions.
nobody contested it. Now, this is a performance enhancing hormone. So we all have different bodies. And now I'm not saying that trans women who aren't on hormones should participate, but there are, I mean, every major.
But why? But why? Trans women that aren't on hormones shouldn't participate. But why? Why? Are they not women? Are they not the same? My goodness. My goodness. Trami says to Brissinger, bring on Roman gladiatorial combat between women. Yeah, you got to have it like back in the old days, you know, when they would have their breasts out. They'd have one breast out to prove how fucking base they were.
Nicole, and every major sports organization agrees that trans women who have been on hormones for between 1 and 3 years, depending on the organization.
They always make these broad claims. Every major sports association agrees. They agree. If you've been on hormones for 3 years, you're just you have completely transformed. Which is not true. Which is not true. Even to get even close, it takes about 10 years if you look into it. Hey, Trumpzilla's back in the house. He says, normally I'll just sit here and watch, but once Prisoner put on Willem Dafoe, or Brissinger put on Willem Dafoe, it was over for me.
Have the same competitive abilities.
The study that you're referencing had like 7 people participated.
That's misinformation, by the way. I'm referencing several different studies. I'm a trans woman and a researcher.
It's getting personal. I don't want it to be
a lot
personal.
of us live in this space where we're told that our opinions don't count because they're not the right kind of opinions. And we're constantly shouted over and talked over, regardless of what we look like, because there's one group in society that basically takes precedence, and it's frustrating. So yeah, of course, it's frustrating.
Oh my God, she cackles like a witch. Trauma says, yeah, there are only 2 tactics here. Broaden the talking point to meaninglessness or narrow it to unrelatability. That's exactly right. Drumzilla says, may I mention that I was starting a new boxing division for trans people so they can fight their own biological sex. And I've watched some pretty nasty bare knuckle boxing between chicks. Brissinger says, you're welcome. Trembling says, this is getting harder and harder to take. These hens and shims, apart from the ginger and Aussie, have walnut brains. Well, this, the people that are like against the feminist horde, there's this woman, and kind of this woman. She's kind of like halfway in there. So they make up more of the group, but they have had way less time to speak.
Because when we try to talk about it, we get shouted down, we get told to be quiet, we get spoken down too as well. So there's hostility there for plenty of women.
Let's try to make this an opportunity to speak.
You're literally a white woman from Australia. You live in a bubble and you're pissed that voices that have been silenced forever finally can be heard.
That's why they have the voice, because they speak up.
Okay, we're having a conversation about transgender women participating in sports, and I wanted to allow more people to participate. Jordan?
Trumpzilla says, that Mr. White from the Venture Brothers. Yeah, I think so. Actually, somebody mentioned something like that earlier.
I wanted to hear from you.
So I am not a professional athlete. The closest thing I have ever done to anything athletic was I used to do competitive show choir when I was younger. And I don't feel really qualified to make carte blanche statements about whether or not trans women should compete in every kind of sport. And I understand that is that's a hard pill to swallow. And for me, my first inclination is to approach.
Why is it a hard pill to swallow unless you're like fucking in denial?
Everything through a lens of inclusivity. But at the same time, I also can't speak accurately to every kind of sport and the different things that go into it. So I really think in these instances, the decisions are best left up to the professional governing bodies that dictate these particular sports.
I just feel like in places, as an ally, in places where there's no understanding, we can just respect and not really, like, our opinions don't fucking matter.
Eli, saw you.
The only people that are having their opinions dismissed without even being listened to are the people that you disagree with. Nobody's stopping you from fucking talking and saying nothing. They ask you for concrete examples. You don't give them. They try to express themselves. You try to shoot them down. Say that they're kind of bigoted. They're self-loathing women. Brissinger says it's like oil and water, completely different women. Trembling says John Popper's new act is lousy. Maybe he's getting the runaround there. Trumpzilla says not completely off talking topic, but when she takes that thing out of her nose, does she whistle when she breathes? Prof says tough to get hard thinking of me trying to fuck Pearl. The stool wobbling on the bucket on top of the cinder block in 3 phone books would look like a bit from the 101 Dalmatians. It would be very funny. It'd be very Disney-esque. Hagbert says she's angry that her clit was cut off with a hunk of broken bottle. Trembling says this Arab bitch has no arguments, just hostility. Brissinger says she probably makes loud noises. Loud noises.
Are you nodding your head over there?
Several times.
Preach, sister. Huh? Huh? They're cruel, but they're right.
This is more than about sports. This is about free and equal participation for transgender people in social life. And the right sees this as a socially acceptable way to begin to remove trans people from different engagements in our society. So it does just start with sports or bathrooms or locker rooms, something that they find is more acceptable. And then at this point, they start to move into education, getting trans teachers fired, banning trans books. This is...
yes, when you're trying to indoctrinate second graders, then yeah, people aren't too stoked about that.
A route that is very effective because it's seen as more acceptable. But it's also overlooking a lot of major details. Like, do y'all know how many trans women have won national titles?
One too many.
One. It's Leah Thomas is the only one.
Too many.
If women
too many.
if women's sports were actually...
They act like it's static, like it will always be that way. Well, only one person has won a national title. Yeah, today. And if you were to open the floodgates and open the door and just let anybody into these disciplines, into these sports, do you think the number would go up? If we lessened the criteria, do you think those numbers would go up? Well, I don't know. Fucking wild stuff. Trami says, nice slippery slope there. Trami says, quote unquote, first you complain about the bank interest rates, then Hitler. Prophet says, side note, Shaun, several times a day I hear, oh, and the X-File stinger in my head as a general reaction to everyday life. Thanks. Well, you're welcome. You're welcome. I hear it as well. Trembling says, put them all on Madagascar and wall it off.
Actually going to end in some way. I mean, it's just not happening. Wouldn't you think there would be more trans women in sports when the majority of states do allow trans women full participation? International titles, 0. No global titles have ever been won by a trans woman.
Today, but if we were just to let anybody in that identifies as a woman, do you think that would change? That's the fucking point. It's trying to stop something before it happens, before it becomes more of a problem. And just because they're not winning titles doesn't mean that they're not taking scholarships, they're not taking opportunities, places on teams, etc. So they're not factoring in any of that.
I want to move on to a different topic. I want to talk about Me Too and sort of this social movement that we're living through right now. What is the state of feminism sort of in this post-Me Too era?
We're in post-Me Too?
All right.
Tell me.
Sorry, I got distracted by the Me Too part. So I was like, we're in post-Me Too? Wow, like no one's getting like sexually harassed anymore. Like,
We did it, guys. We solved the problem.
I want that world. No, I think obviously the state of feminism is very much reflected right in this room. But Me Too for me, right, in a particular context means something for different people. It's a different experience for different people. In my culture and in my community, we're still working through that. There is no post Me Too, right? We're still working through how do we have these tough conversations? How do we teach not just, women, but everyone about consent? What does consent look like? What does that look like in our community? What does that not look like? Right? All those things that I think it's still very complicated. But I think it starts at the level of community, right? Of like, how do we have these conversations around consent?
Sydney, I saw your hand up.
Hagbard says, why isn't Zuby on this panel? Trauma says, and you don't find it suspicious that given the tiny fucking fraction that are trans, those people happen to become world champions. Excellent point. Trembling says, whoa, it's like trannies are like 1% of the population at most or something. Drumzilla says, Shaun hit the nail on the head again. They're taking scholarships that are rightfully supposed to be given to the people who merit them most and the most deserving, instead of that creep that steals luggage of the idiot press secretary from Haiti. Hagbard says, you're Dominican. It's never going away. Prophet says, I'd like to show her what consent doesn't look like. Oh!
No, I got to start this off with a red alert, red alert, red alert.
Red alert, everybody.
So when the Me Too thing was unfolding, I was initially like, great, I love the idea of women being able to speak out. What's been really disappointing, I suppose, for me, post-Me Too, as we're calling it, is that, and especially as someone who's sort of on the right wing of politics, I think that a lot of the experiences of
the pained look, she's in physical pain just having to listen to this bitch.
Women on the right get a bit trivialized because there is a lot of politicizing of sexual assault. So when something legitimately happens on our side of the table and someone tries to speak up about it, there's almost an automatic disbelief. And I understand why. It's because of the believe all women type of stuff that came out of the Me Too movement, that a lot of us were like, wait a minute, no, people do use these situations for gain. People do make things up. People do lie. But it is sad to watch it happen. It makes me sad that we're here.
Jordan?
I feel like there'll never be a post-Me Too because at the heart of it, Me Too is just a phrase. The spirit of what Me Too represented will always be relevant, and that is that you are empowering individual women to advocate for themselves and speak out when they feel like they're being wrong. Ideally, you're just trying to be the most transparent and self-accountable person you can be, and you need to hit all of those fronts if you want it to last on a cultural level.
How about beauty standards?
How about beauty standards? Why can I not look like a dumpster pirate? Why can I not do that? Brissinger says the facilitator looks like she's having a blast. I'd bang her in an instant. Trami says, I'll have to give it to Vice that they actually tried to get some different viewpoints. I agree. It's not completely one-sided, and it seems like Sydney Watson, Just Pearly Things, a few of the others are actually bringing up substantive arguments. It's not just kind of nebulous talking points that don't really mean very much. Prophet says it's 11:30 and I've had a few. Any one of these beasts could get it right now. Trumpzilla says, why do I get the idea that this girl has 2 kids under 10? Which girl? Brissinger says, what about all of them, Prophet, at the same time? Well, that's how you would maximize pleasure. You got to get into the hedonistic, become hedonists.
We talked a little bit about this. This got brought up at the beginning. How does that tie into femininity?
Sorry, I'm very into this idea because I do think it is one of the larger intersections that just doesn't get very discussed, which is, like I was talking about before, barriers and friction are placed up around bodies. And the fatter I get, the older I get, the less people will listen to me, the less
Trumpzilla says, I'm at the one on the end with the dark hair. She just looks like a mom to me. If you're talking about Sydney Watson, no, she is not. She is not a mother. I think she's in her late 20s. Kind of a phony tradcon, honestly, a little bit. I know she presents herself as like a libertarian type, but Brissinger says it's pointless to bring up substantive arguments to an empty room. Prophet says, that reminds me of my New Mexico days, Brissinger. Like George Carlin said, I never fucked a 10, but one night I fucked 5 2s. Trembling says, only that Layla bitch for me. She looks like the real life version of the goofy movie bitch. She does kind of look like the chick from the Goofy movie. Brissinger says, that's what's going on. They're trying to convince the void to have some substance. Never gonna happen.
value I will have for society. So, I'm already starting out as a woman with no legs. If I had something on my face, I have my beauty. That's one of my privileges. I have my whiteness. That's one of my privileges. I used to have thinness and now I'm getting fatter. Things are changing. And I think every single time that we talk about feminism, pretty privilege should be discussed because we have these ideas. If your skin tone is this, if your hair is this, if your body looks like that, it's about whether or not you.
Listen, doesn't matter, dude. If you're banging, and it opens up doors. It is what it is. I don't think society is going to change that. We all instinctually just have a concept of what is attractive, and we like to facilitate it, and we like to help them. Makes you way more approachable. That's kind of it. It's maybe unfair, but it's kind of baked into the cake. It's baked into the cake a little bit.
Are given an equal opportunity based on what you look like.
I saw it.
I think a lot of times the women that complain about beauty standards don't complain about them when they got privilege, when they were young and attractive and thin. So it's like, yeah, you're complaining when the privilege is gone, but privilege is invisible to those who have it. And women, it's a privilege, and men don't turn 18 and get looks that we get.
As a Black woman, one of the most integral parts of the beauty conversation has been colorism.
Brissinger says, I want to see her do the worm. Trembling says, quote unquote, but you ain't got no legs, Lieutenant Dan. Brissinger says, she got a mouth, brah, and a nose.
I'm a dark-skinned Black woman, proud of it and proud of being myself. For the most part, I did not. Why am I going to cry about this?
I don't know. Why are you going to cry?
I did not grow up thinking I was beautiful because I was that. And I think in the Black space, we have these conversations, but I think I'm glad to bring it up because I think feminists actually really should be part of the colorism topic because
Trauma says also men don't really give that much of a shit about beauty when it comes down to it. Not as much as these people think. No, because at some point, like especially if you move towards like wanting to get married or something, there are other factors that come into play. It's not just about beauty. It's not if you want something substantive. You actually have to be able to hold a conversation with somebody. They have to have values that are similar to yours, etc. Trumpzilla says, what's happening now is the pizza guy has been off stage for at least 20 minutes. Trembling says, but you got enough dick anyway. I'm sure, Mini Dreads. Maybe she did.
Because colorism is not just shades within being Black. It's shades because the beauty standard is the closer to whiteness you are, the more beautiful you are. I think it's something that if more people in different shades, particularly white women, because of knowing that standard, and we work together on that, then we have a lot. I think something we can unify on, but also something that we can make strides in right now that I'm just.
You should stop allowing gay men to control Western beauty standards. Okay? Tell those gay guys to shape up.
Not singing. It's only, again, that's why people feel like you have to be a Black feminist, because it's a topic that only really Black feminists are talking about because it deals with being Black.
How do beauty standards make you feel, Morris?
I mean, kind of what you're saying, Antonia.
Hagrid says, bring back Al Bundy. Trami says, answer me this. Why would white women give up their advantage to make you feel better? Because they have to be self-loathing. And they have to flagellate themselves to the altar of something. The altar of something. Trembling says, why are your dreads blonde if you're so proud of being dark-skinned? I mean, well, I guess that's a fair point. That's a fair point. Brissinger says, I mean, fuck, don't put shit on your head, but just look good, look wholesome. Trumpzilla says, Al Bundy is still king. Well, I think that's really the true rub, is that you actually have to be a person with a personality. You know, we talk about incels, we talk about doomer guys all the time and their perspective, and it's not really that much different than what some of these people are saying, because they just think they've already lost. They've lost before they've even begun, and none of them ever bring up the idea of like, well, are you a good person? Do you have a good personality? Are you interesting? None of that factors into any of the shit that they're talking about. They're just talking about the most superficial bullshit possible, because they're overly concerned what's going on in like Hollywood and the fashion industry, where the most beautiful people on the planet congregate. I mean, come on. Trumpzilla says it's absolutely true. The more radical the color, the more chemicals are put directly into the brain, creates the more demented brain.
As a Black Latina woman in my community, right? Like, I grew up and I was ugly, right? Like, that's what I was considered.
She was considered ugly. I don't know. She was considered ugly because she was a Black Latina woman. Honestly, she reads it just like a Black lady. I don't know. To me, anyways. Trembling says, feminists in the manosphere are all antinatalist psyops from on high. I definitely agree. There's a lot of crossover there. A lot of crossover. Brissinger says, yeah, the humblest people are the most attractive. Here she goes with her accent.
I was not considered beautiful. Of feeling ugly, but also being told I was, right, had a lot to do with what is believed in my community, right? Colorism is one of them.
Is this true, though? Like, she's just saying in her community she was considered ugly, or were people just mean to you personally? Like, this is what I like. It's all these personal anecdotes, and they fractionalize everything down to their own personal experience, and then apply it as if it's a broad standard. But that's probably not true. That could just be you. Like, this is not like, I wouldn't look at this person and be like, oh, that's a hideous chud. No, I don't think most people would either. Maybe there were just some cruel people in her life. Maybe she had brothers, maybe she had sisters or something that weren't nice to her, you know? Brissinger says she didn't have the accent before. Well, she had it before, but she applies it thicker when she brings it up. When she brings up that she's a Latinx. Trauma says, fucking horseshit. You were never told you were ugly because you were latte colored. The skin would be gorgeous if you were 60 pounds less. Probably. Brissinger said, this is why it looks like a psyop, folks. Trumpzilla says she never got older than 14. Not in her mind, not in her brain. Hagrid says, I know many hot Dominican women. She is not one of them. Ooh, boy, we got a bully. Hagrid's coming in with the bully action. Brissinger says, absolutely. He applies it on command. She applies it on command.
And so to say, I'm going to redefine beauty for myself, and to say, I own myself and I get to decide what's beautiful, right? And I get to decide what I want to wear and how I want to wear it. And I don't need to, right? It's almost a repelling, right? Like, I'm like, no, you know what? I am beautiful. I'm going to do what I want to do, and I'm going to feel myself, because if no one else is going to feel me, it's on me to feel me too.
I got to say, though,
So what the fuck does that have to do with the conversation at hand? It's just you taking responsibility for your own self-respect. For you being like, well, you know, I am who I am. I can't do anything about it. So fuck them. Fuck them. I'll just go on living my life the way I want to live it. More power to you. What the fuck does that have to do with colorism? especially when she's saying that it happened to her within her own community. Trembling says both the black girl and the Hispanic black would be good looking if they lost weight. Trauma says, and she's not revolting as is. She's just not instantly attractive. With a good attitude, she'd be a good time. I agree. Brissinger says, all you got to do is lose weight to average, to look like your gender, and have a personality, aka be relatable. I agree. I think people put way too much of an impetus on like basic beauty standards because most people, like 98% of the population, probably on the globe, does not conform to it. Does not conform to like the Hollywoodization, the popular culture of what it means to be beautiful. Trembling says, and I'm sure they were thin at some point, or even if not, I already know the black dudes way out of their league. Fuck them. Brissinger says, you probably save more money that way, and that will make you attractive too. Everybody likes a frugal gal.
I did grow up being referred to as very beautiful for a woman with a disability. And that to me always fed the.
I would always, you're really hot for a chick with no legs. You want to get it on. Drumzilla says it's always true that fat chicks usually dress like drag queens. Some of them do. Tarami says frugality is hot. Agreed. I agree. Fuck, I could use a little bit more in my life. I wish my wife would be a little hotter through frugality.
This idea that disability doesn't mean beautiful. I am in some form of exceptionalism, which I then had to keep up with forever. So it's like I got this thought as I started to age, like, you can have no legs, but you better not fucking get fat. And so this idea that.
Do you think most people don't feel that way? Do you think most people don't feel that way? Like, oh, wow, my looks, they empower me. They're part of like what helps me in society. It's what helps me in my social relationships, etc. Yeah, everybody faces that. Not just people with no legs. Everybody faces that. Hagbard says she's got legs. She knows how to use them. Quote unquote. Brissinger says, I don't know. It's hard to get out of these holes they burrow themselves in. People burrow themselves in. They do. And then it becomes like kind of this insurmountable mountain. They can't climb it because they've already set themselves up as failures. They're already saying, I lost already before they even began. Same thing we hear from people like DBDR or Base George before he had his recent revelations. Trembling says the source of all that shit is like Shaun said, women being fag hags that listen intently to advice of people that openly hate them. Well, I mean, the fashion industry and what sets beauty standards, etc., what they're talking about, it's mostly gay men. It's mostly gay men that do that. I'm just saying, it is what it is. Prophet says, if I fucked Wheels, I'd make her sing I Have No Legs song from Kids. Brissinger says, like, you got to be happy with what you have. Well, you have to be happy with it, and you also have to learn how to use your particular advantages. You got to know thyself a little bit. Trauma says to Brissinger, I'm not unsympathetic to the fact that it's fucking hard to make something of yourself, but wallowing in self-pity is not the way. Exactly. You cannot say that you've lost before you've tried. When you do that, holy shit, that's very damaging. And when they encourage other people to engage in that kind of thinking, that kind of psychopathy, it's not healthy. It's bad. That's why I can't stand like red pill MGTOW dudes. That's why I can't stand them, because that's what they do. They disseminate their fucking fucked up, weird, warped worldview that has nothing to do with the average median person's life, and they infect young men. They infect young men with standards that are completely unrealistic, with a worldview that is completely like anathema to how their life actually is, and they never find happiness as a result of it. Brissinger says it's not that they tell themselves, but the other people tell them they've lost. Family, friends, work. Got to make what you have work. It's the lizard people again. I agree.
Like, there are certain people who are beautiful and certain people who aren't, and that inherently holds value. Is, I think, find it in yourself, yes. And
Jordan?
Beauty standards are toxic bullshit hierarchical nonsense. And I say that as someone who has spent...
I say that as a chud. Brissinger says MGTOW is the same as antinatalists. I agree.
Over a year collectively of my life in eating disorder institutions because I have tried to put my body through hellish things.
Eating disorder institutions. Man, you got some serious fucking problems. Some serious problems. I'm really glad that you're in academia.
To meet these beauty standards, which more often than not are not based in reality. They're typically trends. They're created to push things. They're extremely useful for marketing, but they don't serve anyone's health. They don't serve anyone's self.
All of these people, what they really need are like good parents, like good parents to guide them through life and to remind them of these very basic observations about things like beauty standards and how they actually work. That's what they're missing. That's what they're missing. Prophet says, goodbye, horses. I'm flying over you. Brissinger says, God damn it, Shaun, laugh my fucking ass off.
Esteem. They only act to try and tell us that there's a allegedly right way to have a body. And if you don't occupy that space and have that body, then you're a piece of shit. Which is
yeah, but she will conflate this with being healthy. With being a healthy person, because they also consider the idea that you'd be encouraged to be healthy and work out and eat right as a form of violence, as a form of trying to reinforce this patriarchal standard of the beauty standard. That's the way that person would probably perceive saying like, hey man, maybe you shouldn't eat all that cake. Trauma says, no, they are largely not trends. Hot women have been hot for a century, at least at this point. Yeah. They're not, well, but they are a small pool of the population, like women that are truly beautiful, or men that are truly attractive and beautiful. That's not most people. It's just not. Brissinger says, peace out, Thangle. JK, I don't know what that means. Tremling says, keep the sexes against each other is the easiest psyop because everyone has issues with the opposite sex to some extent. Yeah, just kind of normal things that we kind of learn to just kind of grit and bear and be like, well, you know, women are a little fucking irrational sometimes. And as a dude, you just kind of have to accept that. Doesn't mean you have to fall victim to it. Doesn't mean you have to like let it be a corrosive element in your life. You should encourage each other, especially if you're in a relationship, to have some form of self-awareness and catch yourself. Tarami says, oh, for sure, but that's just Sturgeon's law in action. Most people are not exceptional. That's true. Most people are not. Brissinger says, not everyone thinks hot fashion models are hot, especially when you like, well, there's a difference. Like there's people that photograph really well. You know, my wife used to make me, speaking of different sexes and interests, my wife introduced me to America's Next Top Model. Or it might have been my wife, or it might have been Big Paul's wife, actually, when we all lived together so long ago. But we would watch America's Next Top Model, and most of those people are not actually attractive, like in a traditional sense, but they photograph very well. They look really good in pictures because they all have like exaggerated characteristics, exaggerated features. But when you just see them out in the wild, it's not really that crazy. Prophet says, I saw Cameron Diaz in real life once at Whole Foods. She was even more attractive in person. Maybe the most perfect face I've ever seen IRL. Oh, damn. Nice. Travis says, speaking of fucking hot woman, my wife. I think my wife's hot because she's my wife. That's why I married her. Well, not why I married her, but one of the factors. Trembling says, fashion models being hot stopped after the 90s. After the 90s, it became about being unique over beautiful. There could be something to that. But I also think there is something to that. Like some people, if you just kind of frame them correctly, maybe all people, probably most people, you could find a way. I mean, especially we live in the era of like Instagram pictures and social media. Like everybody can make themselves look fucking cool. You just have to have the right tools. And now everybody has the right tools to do that. Where it used to be kind of gate kept behind like, you know, people that really knew how to use things like Photoshop.
Is absolute nonsense. And there are way too many women and men in the world who end up doing terrible things to themselves because they fall into this trap of thinking that you have to be this way. And if you aren't this way, then there's something inherently wrong at your core, which is nonsense. You're perfect the way you are. That's literally the core of it. You are perfect the way you are. And anyone who tries to tell you otherwise is feeding into this industry and is just, they are not your friend or looking out for you.
Exactly. That is kind of a misnomer. You're perfect just the way you are. No, that's not true. Most people can make improvements. Again, I would go back to what I said before. I think that person would kind of lump into the idea of like the beauty standard in with just being healthy, just being a healthy person. Brissinger dropped the link. He said, "Trust me, it's good. We'll watch it right after this. We only got a couple minutes left."
Oh yeah, I was going to say, yeah, beauty in the industry is exploitative, but also we have to remember a lot of the beauty standards are based around health, what's perceived as health, like symmetry, certain weights, things like that. So there is that side where we have to balance it, and I think we're seeing so much more representation, which I think is incredibly important.
Well, I just think that like, if women really cared about beauty standards, like the obesity rate wouldn't be what it is.
But what
Let's
about
try
you?
to attain the beauty standards. I just think like some people are more attractive, some people are less attractive, and that's just, where would I rate myself 1 to 10? Like,
we're not rating. It's okay.
That's what I mean. Like, I just think like some people are more attractive.
So if you are overweight, you don't care about beauty standards.
Well,
is that right?
the point is that the beauty standard is thin, right?
Your standard?
But obesity comes from men and women, though.
Yeah, you're right. That's true. But I'm saying if women really...
Well, she's saying if women are forced to conform to a beauty standard, why aren't they conforming to it? That is what she's saying. Crunk the Madman says, Hagrid with the tits says, "You're perfect the way you is, Mr. Potter. You're a wizard, Harry. You're thin and beautiful." Brissinger says, like, you feel like you can relax after seeing that now. Poor kid. Your standards laugh at my ass off. I will watch it. We'll watch it. Hold on. I haven't caught up to the chat. The chat has watched it. I haven't. Tremling says, this heifer sounds like that turkey eating wrestling slot from the other day and not wanting to improve at all. A little bit.
really wanted to fit the beauty standard, they would be thin.
I know. I just, from my experience as well, is growing up again in a mostly white neighborhood but I was always comparing myself to literally other people who have a different body type, but I was considered other or to something because it didn't conform to that body type. When that same body type became popular with Kim Kardashian, the Kardashians, who are different, right, than me, let's just say, are different skin.
Yeah, they're different than everybody, the Kardashians. That's because they inject silicone into their bodies and get massive amounts of plastic surgery. They're different from everybody. They're basically aliens at this point. Okay? Crunk the Madman says, "Thanks, Shaun, for capturing my thoughts perfectly." Oh, you're very welcome. Brissinger says, "I should not have said that. I shouldn't have told you that."
Color,
I'll
right?
get there.
And there's a lot of animosity. And a lot of Black communities of the fact that when it was on Black skin, it was an issue.
Now remember, this conversation started about feminism. This is supposed to be about feminism. Crunk says, "This panel contains two well-rounded womans." Trami says, "Quote unquote, a different body type is such horseshit." Yeah, we look a little different, but overweight is not a body type. Based on Red Pill.
Issue, but when it was on Kim Kardashian and the Kardashians, it was $1 billion business.
Yep. Our time together has almost come to an end. We sort of started talking about feminism, big picture. We're going to try again. Is feminism dead?
I think feminism is alive. And
she kind of looks like a dressed down version of the hot Spanish chick from Modern Family. I don't remember that actress's name, but she kind of looks like her a little bit. You know what? She could get it. She could get it. Brissinger says, "I was just quoting Hagrid, Shaun." Oh, okay, well, my bad. Trembling says, "Now it's just chicks arguing over whether they feel pretty or not." Laugh out loud. Crunk says, "My body type is rejected feminist women. Women are so predictable," says Trembling.
I'm thankful to be a participant and believer of it.
I would say, as far as the West goes, I think that feminism has been cannibalized by other movements like leftism, like transgenderism.
So I think feminism is very much alive and well. I think it takes different forms depending on who you're talking to, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. And as I've
Yeah, I think when the standard is feminism is whatever you want it to be, yeah, it's probably alive and well. When there is no standard, when there is no definition, it's just whatever I feel. That's feminism, baby. It's probably dead.
Fine in the beginning, for me, I use it as a lens. So I don't think I'll ever stop having it in my arsenal, if you will. It makes for a good vice panel.
Okay, we're done. I appreciate everybody taking the time. I know this is, it got a little heated at times, but thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Yeah, that dude was very aggressive. Eli was very aggressive. Crunk says, "Thanks, Shaun. I've been trying to quit drinking." Hey, me too, buddy. There is no rest for the wicked.
For having us.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Can I stand up now? Oh my God. Are we actually really done?
I love arguing.
I don't think I have sat this long in a little chair.
That was wild.
Now, see, this is what I would be way more interested in hearing is like the off the cuff, off camera conversations. Now they've all kind of partitioned off into their groups. You saw Sydney talking to Pearly Things. You see these fucking harpies and this dude get together to talk about what they want to talk about. Trelming says, "I'd love if the facilitator was getting talking points to bring up the impractical jokers." Crunk says, "There are 3 dudes in that panel, if not 5.
I mean, drama.
It was nerve-wracking.
Some of the people on the panel were entirely subsumed in misinformation.
I think that
You know, they were completely subsumed in misinformation, and then you did nothing to correct their misinformed opinions. This was your platform. This was your opportunity. And this is the whole game these people play. They just say, well, you're just misinformed. And if you ask me to explain myself, well, that's just you're just being bigoted. You should just accept that you don't understand and just go with it and just support me, regardless if it makes any sense at all.
we women need to stick together and figure out what a woman is.
We were all loud, outspoken women.
Some people are soft.
I hate the idea that we're not supposed to be angry about it. It's okay to be angry about being oppressed.
It was like surprising to get tone policed on camera by a white woman.
I don't know why.
It was surprising to get tone policed by a white woman on camera. Holy shit. Nobody who the fuck tone policed her? Unless there's something on the cutting room floor we didn't see. I don't think anybody tone policed her. They just said, hey, could you not fucking interrupt me? Could you not be dismissive of me because you don't agree with me? They expect all of this charity in their direction, but they will not give any of it back. Not any of it back. Bressinger says, yep, it's a Mott and Bailey approach. I agree. Crunk says, I'm sorry. Woman dudettes. I have a hard time with the, what does that say? Goo genders. Bressinger says, tone police the fuck.
Everything has to become about me being a white person as if that somehow circumvents my opinions on issues.
The personal is political. The political is personal.
We need to have more.
The personal is political. The political is personal. Very, very deep thoughts from Peter Griffin. Traumi says, also, I found it amusing when just slightly dark women complain about white people. Yeah, I know. As if she's had to deal with being a minority, being treated like a minority. I don't think so. She conforms to many beauty standards, as they were talking about. Hagbert says, tone policed equals not 100% agreed with. Exactly. Brissinger says there were only 2 whites.
More spaces where we have literal political ideologies of different backgrounds.
Feminism is always and has been a hate group.
Feminism isn't dead in America. I think feminism is doing its best.
I'm ready.
Well, what is she doing here? Hold on. We got to back up. Like, what is she doing here? She's got her laptop out. She's got her glasses on. She's typing away. She's blogging. Like, you guys will never believe what happened to me on Vice today. Brissinger says, Tim Pool's hose ain't whites. Trembling Color says, Dread Girls could be red pilled. Yeah, she's like halfway there. She's like halfway in, halfway out. She brings up things like about her personal life that you're just like, okay. I mean, they're just personal anecdotes. Like I said, like they take personal anecdotes, their personal experience, and they broaden it out as if it applies to everybody. And then at the end of the day, you're just like, it's probably most of what they're saying isn't as intense as what they presented as. Crunk says, when your bottom lip streaks lipstick over your bottom teeth. Hey now.
Feminism isn't dead in America. I think feminism is doing its best.
I'm ready for a glass of wine.
Yeah, get a glass of wine to go with that abortion you're about to have.